Town Council today, Tuesday, April 27th at 1 p.m. I guess we're being recorded. That's good. And Candace, would you please read the roll?
Mayor Dillenberg,
Here.
Vice Mayor Worth,
Sorry, present.
Ms. Barber,
Present.
Ms. Harvey. You're muted, Sage. You're still muted. Can't hear you. That's weird.
Hey.
I see that you're there, and I'm going to note it for the record. And Ms. Moore,
I'm here.
Maybe we got to get the volume on. Hey, Jane.
we could hear you just then, Sage.
Okay, I had my volume way down.
Oh.
So you can hear me now?
Yes.
Everybody here? Did you get Alex? Good.
Yes, everybody's here.
Good. Item number 2 and on the agenda is paid parking. And I was approached by a couple of business owners whose employees don't want to work up here because of the parking situation, that they have to pay so much for parking to get parking spots. They don't want to apparently walk from the 300 level down to their businesses. And the suggestion was made to offer and I spoke with Chief Mum about this, a parking voucher that someone could buy a week's parking and get that at a discounted rate instead of paying the full amount, because they feel like it's just too much to pay the parking when the pay is limited anyway. So I said I would bring it up for discussion at the meeting. Again, it was not looking for free parking, but looking for what are some of the options to help get employees coming up with. There were 2 reasons employees were not taking jobs in restaurants and hotels in Jerome. One was the unemployment benefit being paid by the government, which we have no control over, which is way too excessive. But the parking is the other one, that very often they have to pay for parking, and that just eats into their limited pay. So I said I would raise it to the meeting, and I wanted to, we got some input from one citizen who wrote a note that Candace will share with you. And then I see Mandy and Sage both have their hands up. So should we hear from our council members first, Candace, or what would you prefer?
That would be good, yes.
Okay, so why don't we start? We'll start with Mandy, then we'll go to Sage.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I have a feeling that Sage is, and I might be in agreement on this. We talked about this when we were writing the ordinance. We talked about this in the work group on even putting in parking meters. We went round and round and round multiple times and multiple angles on this. And the whole, I guess, point to the paid parking was to encourage those who are visiting us to contribute to our infrastructure. It was not to force residents, it was not for residents or employees to be contributing to the infrastructure. They contribute already. It was to get visitors to contribute to the infrastructure by paying for the premium parking spaces in town. Key there, premium parking spaces. Okay. There are over 300 free parking spaces within a quarter of a mile of any of the businesses in town, with the exception of those that have their own private parking, like the Copper Shop and down at the high school. I've worked in this town for years. I mean, for a long time. And I didn't drive to and from work. I walked. And where I walked from is easily twice as far as the 300 level is from the business district. If they don't want to park at the 300 level, that's not our problem. And that's not what the paid parking situation was designed for. The paid parking was designed for visitors to pay towards our infrastructure for premium parking spaces. Half the parking spaces in the business district are still free. There's a ton of parking at the 300 level that is free. It is lit all the way out there. If they are uncomfortable walking out there at the end of the night, I am sure that someone will assist with an escort to the 300 level if they're uncomfortable with that. I get it. I don't like to walk around in the dark either. I want a flashlight and street lights. But we've talked about this, and I thought we had kind of come to a decision. So thank you.
No, I appreciate your point. Point's well taken, and you're absolutely correct. Anyway, Sage, you just agree with that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yay, you can hear me this time. Yeah, Mandy pretty much said what I was gonna say. I'll reiterate that we beat this like
Okay,
around
good.
so much when we were putting the parking kiosks in. And in my opinion, this is Jerome. It's not like it's real dangerous to walk around in the dark unless, you can't see something in front of your feet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like we have a lot of crime up here. And I am gonna reiterate that there are businesses that have private parking, and I would bet that one of them is one of these employers that's asking. He has his own parking lot. And I really feel like there's more free parking than there is paid parking. And like I said, we beat this like
Fine, no,
I felt
absolutely.
so bad last time that I really don't have any desire to try and do that. So.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate it. I just told him I'd bring it up. So, yes, Alex, did you have a different point of view?
I agree with Mandy and Sage, and I also want to point out that now that it's getting hot, covered parking spaces are amazing. We have covered parking spaces out at that free 300 level
Great,
lot.
yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you. Thank you all. No, very good. I appreciate your input. You're all correct. I can't disagree with anything you've said along the way. And we're just going to leave it. There will not be a motion on it whatsoever. I don't think we need to read that letter, Candace, because we're not going to pursue any action on this beyond just the discussion we've had.
Okay, very well.
Okay, everybody okay? So we'll move on to item number 3. And again, I think the big issue is where the feds are giving the $600 plus bonus to unemployment insurance or something that's keeping people out. But that's another story.
It's only
So-
$300 extra a week.
Oh, it is now down to 200. Thank you. Thank you.
It's I'll tell you, it's barely enough to live on, and some
No,
of
I'm
us
sure.
actually
Yeah,
need
yeah.
it.
No, I get it. I get it. But I think you all are correct in your discussion and the points you made. So I've got zero problem with any of it. So we'll just move on. Did you have another question or comment there, Alex? I see your hand up.
I will put my hand down. I do want to point out that people that work for the businesses, if you show up in Jerome between 9, 10 a.m., you have any parking spot that you like. I feel unfortunate for people that have to come to work at 2 because all the free spaces are taken.
Yeah.
Business owners are usually opening their stores by 10. You have whatever parking space you want in the
Sure.
morning when you show up. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll
thank you very much.
lower my hand.
Thank you, everybody. Good. Let's moving on to item number 3, the COVID-19. What are the opening up the public meetings and the weekend shuttle service and the protocol for doing so. I'm still looking forward to having our May meeting in person. Candace, you had a comment before we go to Mandy?
Yeah, I wanted to note that I have ordered plexiglass panels for the front of the dais and for between the individuals on the dais. They should all be in by Monday at the latest. So just
Great.
want to let you know that.
Thank you so much. Vice Mayor, please.
Thank you. That sounds awesome, Candace. That's what Sedona's been doing, is plexiglass in between. Same with Camp Verde. I am curious. I guess I have more questions than anything. I'm curious what the requests have been as far as anybody inquiring about shuttle service. I want to make sure that our staff is still comfortable with what we've put forward as a May 1st start for all town-owned buildings. And then also, have we looked at how we're going to handle, for lack of a better term, hybrid meetings, where I know we've done, like one person on the phone is one thing, but if there's more than one of us, it gets real confusing. And I'm just curious if we've looked at how we have some plans in place, or if we're able to have some plans in place for those types of meetings. Thank you so much.
Mayor, I can respond.
Yes, please, Candace,
I
thank you.
I can remember all those things in order. Let me start with the hybrid meetings. That's really not a great option for us. The reason is with Zoom, everybody has their own microphone and the public can hear and participate. If we try to do Zoom and in person with more than one, to have the camera aiming at everybody, it's hard to hear anybody. And the public is kind of at a disadvantage that way. I mean, for anybody that tries to Zoom in. You know, as in the past, we've had people participate by phone, and I suppose one council member at a time could do that via Zoom, but it wouldn't be, it would be more difficult because it would be on my laptop and I'd be needing it to control the Zoom. So I really, sorry, that was a little convoluted, but it doesn't work well, hybrids. And what I'd like to find, and I will be bringing this up later in our budget meeting, is an AV system to be able to broadcast the meetings to the public in a better way. And that might ease up the hybrid situation a little bit. But anyway, the hybrid stuff doesn't work. Regarding staff's comfort level, I think we're all okay with opening the buildings on May 1st. Sorry, I just had to let somebody in here. With opening the buildings on May 1st. And we would require masks for the public, and we require masks for staff when dealing with the public. And 6 feet apart, we'd be recommending. And I forgot the very first question, Mandy. I'm sorry. What was the first question you asked?
It's okay. Any interest from the public or business owners regarding the shuttle?
I haven't heard any. I can't speak for Kristen. I didn't ask her that. I'm sorry, but I haven't. I think I would have heard about that, but I haven't.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I don't see any hands up. Okay. So that's the update for what we're doing. Look forward to seeing you all in person in May at the meeting. That'll be great.
Dr. Mayor,
Yes.
we are set for possible action on this specific item if we want to, but also I think that we need to give at least some direction on the shuttle. I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, council members and Dr. Mayor, that we've decided to reopen the buildings May 1st, and our first council meeting back in public will be May 1st with social distancing and masks and all that kind of stuff, but we've not clarified, I think, for staff regarding the weekend shuttle service.
Right. And Leo, just so you know, is still doing the Wednesday shuttle for our residents. He is doing that. And but we aren't obviously running the weekend shuttle. So I do need some clarification on that. And we will need a vote regarding the meetings too, because that really hasn't really been fully discussed here. Hold on, Kristen just walked in. She's probably got news.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of people who were visiting from out of town asked if we were still doing the shuttle service. And also today when I was getting the mail, I was up at the 300 level parking lot. We have a sign up there that has the shuttle service on there, and somebody had scrawled "where?" on the sign.
Okay. So a couple of people from out of town have called to ask about the shuttle service. And there's still a sign up apparently that mentions the shuttle service at the post office, and somebody scrolled on it
Hey,
where.
Marty. I see Marty has his hand up.
With as busy as that parking lot gets out there, I would imagine that shuttle would stay pretty busy. I've seen some people standing out there by where the shuttle used to pick up, kind of like they're waiting for it, and then they end up walking into town. I bet there would be a call for it. With as busy as we've been, there would be a call for it. And it would help people to know to park out here a little bit better so they don't have to walk and fight for a space in town.
Great.
So
Thanks, Marty. I see
Yep.
okay. Sage, and then I see Alex and I see Jane. Okay.
Actually, Jane was first, so I'll let her. go
Jane,
first.
thank you. Thank you, Sage. Jane, please.
Oh, I just wondered, the van, is it just the front 2 windows, driver and passenger, that open? Does anyone know? I just wonder, as the weather gets warmer, if windows could be kept open or something, and that might make people feel more comfortable about riding the shuttle. I do think it would be nice to get it going again, but
Yeah,
only if people feel safe doing it.
yes. Good question, good point. Thank you. All right, then should I work my way back and go, Alex, and then we'll get to Sage.
Sage had her hand up first. Sage,
Okay,
go
say aye.
first.
Okay, sorry, Sage. I thought it was. Thank you, Sage. Thank you, Alex.
Okay, I'm used to getting ignored, Jack.
No, I don't ignore you. Yeah, that's the last thing I would know to do with you. Trust me.
Yeah, so I'm with Jane on this. I'm a
Yeah.
little concerned about the air movement in there and then.
That's a
being
great point.
there. And then my other concern would be sanitation of things in between people.
Mhm.
Although we could just make it a right at your own risk type of thing, because I don't know that sanitizing every time someone gets on and off of that van is feasible. So, I mean, it could just be a right at your own risk type of thing.
Thank you. And I don't think we can require being vaccinated because nobody will ride it. No, I know. There you go. Yes, Alex.
How does the shuttle driver feel about resuming normal operating duties, having the people in there? So that would be the council can make the decision, but if our shuttle driver does not feel comfortable, then we, I mean, what can we do with that, Candace? Have you heard how she feels about it?
No, I haven't heard from her since we stopped operating the shuttle. And at the time, she sort of indicated that she assumed we would have to start the hiring process over, but I don't know if that meant that. Kristen, why don't you come in here rather than have me repeat it? Kristen's got more information.
Yay.
Hi guys, I overheard
Hi.
about the van window, so I ran out and looked at it. The passenger and driver side windows both open down. There's also a passenger window in the back that's kind of like the first row of seats and kind of into the second that pops open. Also, the windows on both the door pop open. It's only the windows in the very back of the van and the last row that don't pop open.
Kristen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So to Alex's point, which is a great one, do we want to see if she still wants to work for us?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if not, we put the position out for, we need a new shuttle driver that will drive in these hours.
Right.
Because that's what I kind of overheard.
I don't know where she stands, so we can talk with her and find out. And
Great, thank you. I see Mandy has her hand up now.
is
Alex,
council
you-
wanting to
And
do
then maybe
that?
we could-
what's that?
Is council, is
should we-
that what I'm hearing?
should we not make a decision?
Yes,
Yeah, I was just asking if we could not make a decision on the shuttle driver and wait until she's been contacted and maybe talk about the shuttle at our next budget meeting
all right.
or next regular meeting,
Great.
so that we were not making a decision on that part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, all over my head.
Okay, Mandy, please.
Dr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion,
Yes,
since we are agendized for possible action. I'd like to make a motion that we will resume in-person public meetings as of May 1st. And that the weekend shuttle service will resume once we have secured a driver for that service.
is there a second?
I'll second that motion. Thank you,
Thank
Mandy.
Alex. Thank you. Jane, did you have your hand up or
No.
just making an adjustment?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Sage has her hand up.
Okay, Sage, yes, please.
Yeah, the in-person meetings, it's gonna be hard to do the in-person meetings without allowing the public in. So I'm not quite sure how we're gonna do that.
We would allow the public in if we have in-person meetings. And we would move the chairs so that they're 6 feet apart. The boards are already planning in-person meetings starting this month in May.
My point is, there's a large possibility that we're gonna have more people want to come to those meetings than we can socially distance in our chambers.
We would have to limit
Yeah,
the
first come, first serve, yeah.
the people in the room and maybe broadcast it out somehow, the audio to the hallway or out, I don't know. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. Hopefully, we're not going to be overrun with people. It doesn't.
Good.
But we
Thank you.
can fit, quite a few in the council chambers with the chairs 6 feet apart. And that's what we were planning to do.
And that would, you think that they'll have the plexiglass up by the time we have an?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yes,
I'm aware that there are several of us council members that are not vaccinated.
right. The plexiglass should all be here by Monday. So, I'm
Excellent. Thank
fingers
you, Ellen,
crossed.
for working on that.
sure.
Good. So we had a motion. Did
Might
we-
I amend my motion, please?
Yes, because it wasn't seconded yet, I don't think, but go
Yes,
ahead.
It was seconded, but
Okay,
I think
know
that it'll
Alex,
be
that's right.
okay.
Okay, that's right. Thank you.
I'm going to amend my motion to say that we resume in-person meetings as of May 1st, pending the installation of social distancing protocols and with a limited capacity for the public to accommodate those.
Okay,
I will amend my second to follow that.
thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion,
Yeah,
please say aye.
Rusty Blair had his hand up.
Mayor.
Oh, I don't see Rusty. I don't see you.
Yes.
Sorry, Rusty.
Yes.
Thank you, Sage. Rusty?
Yeah, I just had to get unmuted.
Oh, no, I'll give you $10 to go mute it again.
You want me muted again? I can provide masks for the meetings. We have plenty of masks left.
Thank you.
Also, hand sanitizer. We got a boatload of that stuff too. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. And no other questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries and wins. So that sounds good. Look forward to beginning that process, hopefully in a healthy way. Starting in May. Okay, now moving on to our 2021-22 budget. And I'd like to, we'll begin our discussions. And let's see, Candace, let me let you sort of
Okay.
walk us through.
Okay, here we go with the budget. I gave you all a, excuse me, a draft budget, a big spreadsheet like that. And I'll just go through my ridiculously long memo about it if you like, for the benefit of the public and the recording. We're anticipating things to be more normal, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed about that because these days you just don't know. So we're increasing both revenues and expenditures. Last year, we cut everything back, if you remember. Last year, we were really conservative, but our revenues did exceed our expectations. So we've accumulated additional fund balance now that we'll be able to use this year. This budget that I gave you will cover our day-to-day operations generally, but it doesn't include special projects or requests, and I've listed those individually for you to make decisions about. We still have well over $600,000 in utility and general fund balance to use, and so your job will be to decide how to spend that. The parking fund also includes a reserve of $80,000 for capital purchases or additional transfers to utility or public safety budgets. So right now, as it's drafted, it's utilizing $82,000 of our general fund balance and $41,000 of our utility fund balance. And you'll see the fund balance recap sheet as I mentioned, between the two funds, we still have over 600,000 we can use in this budget and still retain at least 25% in reserve. So that there's no increase in sales tax or utility fees anticipated. There's no subsidy right now from the general fund to the utilities fund, but we're using utility fund balance that we've accumulated. And plus we were able to transfer 40,000 to each of the water and sewer budgets from our parking fund. The sanitation budget again includes a $5,000 transfer toward the eventual purchase of a garbage truck. So after that, we will have accumulated over the years $55,000. So if we needed to buy a garbage truck this year, we've got enough for a good down payment. But hopefully, Marty seems to be bringing that garbage truck along gently, and maybe we won't have to. This budget doesn't include any wage increases. That will be up to the council to decide. Basically, pretty much every percentage increase across the board will amount to about $11,000 in the budget. So Just trying to skip through here so I don't take up the whole hour with this. You'll see certain increases for fuel and health insurance. We're anticipating increases in fuel costs, and there are increases in our health insurance premiums. So you're going to see that across the board. We've estimated property and liability insurance costs. We don't have our bill yet, but I have some good news about that. We just found out we're getting a $31,000 dividend from the risk pool. So that will offset some of those costs. And I have a suggestion on where to spend that, and I'll get back to that in a few minutes. You'll notice that fuel has decreased in the sanitation budget and increased in parks, properties, and HERF. That's because when we have been budgeting these, we put most of the fuel costs in sanitation and very little in those other three. But when we get fuel for the other vehicles, we really need to allocate it more properly to those accounts. So it's just a matter of allocation. So general fund revenues, as you know, the league provides a lot of those figures for the shared revenues. There is legislation pending that would decrease our urban revenue sharing by up to 52,000. You've all gotten emails from me about that. And hopefully that won't happen. I know our league has been working really hard on that, but just a heads up that we might have to decrease that number if that legislation passes. That's the flat tax. And if they decide to take that from the cities and towns, that's what's going to happen. But hopefully they'll find another way around that. Administration charges, you're all familiar with how those are calculated. We allocate some of our administrative costs to the other budgets so that it's sort of cost accounting. And the police and fire revenue estimates were provided by our chiefs. Under general government, we eliminated the mask required signs. And as of May 21st, I will be eliminating the go to my PC costs. So the only expenditure we're keeping in there is the Zoom cost, which is not that much. It's like $400 a year, I think, something like that. But that's going to be very helpful going forward. We've been using that a lot for other meetings, not just council meetings. Tourism, we adjusted to be in line with the added 1% tax, what we're going to anticipate. You'll see there's $6,000 there, and that will be added to the $14,500 that's in the budget for the shuttle driver. So that brings it up to a little over 20,000, which is about the 1% we would expect from the bed tax that has to be spent on tourism. What's not yet included in general government, and for council to consider, an audio-visual system to broadcast council and board meetings. I don't have a cost on that yet, and it's possible we might be able to seek grant funding for that also. A golf cart or ATV for administration. If you've seen the golf cart that Kristen uses, sometimes it's pretty bad. I wouldn't drive it. Anyway, I put 10,000 in for that. And we talked about that last year, and there was some talk about getting one donated, but nothing really ever happened with that. So, and attendance at the league convention is not in there. There is going to be a league convention this year. If any of you plan to go to that.
Yay.
It would be about $600 a person, including lodging. So we can add that in if you think you want to go to that. Magistrate, also not yet included, and it's not on my list because Melanie and I just discussed that this morning, and this is what I was referring to when I said a way to spend that $31,000 that we're getting back from our insurance. I would like, and we would like council to consider changing our accounting system from CIMA to Cassell. That would be a large expense up front, about probably 30,000. But
Wow.
it would have long-term benefits because I think we're the only municipality that uses CIMA. It was designed for nonprofits and not for governments. Cassell is a government accounting system. Cassell would also include what we do with Billmaster. It would consolidate everything into one system. And all the towns around us use that, which means we have a built-in support system if we need help with something. Or anyway, we're getting a quote on that. And if council, would consider it, we'd appreciate it. I think it would greatly improve our financial reporting, and it would make life easier for everybody.
That sounds good. I see Mandy's hand up,
Oh,
Candace.
Mandy has her hand up. Oh, there it is. Okay.
I'd like to wait till Candace finishes her report, please.
Okay,
It might be a while.
we'll see you on Thursday. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, under magistrate court, you'll see court security expenses, then they're offset by court security revenue, so that's a wash, and those are new. The court has to have a triennial audit this year, so that's new, that's $2,200. And the judge has talked to me about additional part-time assistance. I haven't really gone too much further with her with that, but that's not in there, and it might be a request from her. So that's just kind of a heads up for you at this point. Police department, we've increased software maintenance costs. Hold on one sec, let me get rid of that. No, I can't. Okay. We reflected salaries and wages properly. There was one patrol officer whose salary was not correct in the budget last year. And we decreased the amount budgeted for retirement because of the chief's enrollment in the DROPS program. So that's saving the town about $8,000. And we've added $6,000 to R&M equipment to include radio repairs that will be needed during the coming year. This is in addition to the money we're just now spending on those emergency repairs. And the chief is here, I can see, so he might be able to tell you more about that. Capital outlay vehicles was reduced because we did pay off one vehicle this year. And the chief has a request not yet included for a new patrol car. That's $32,000. And that could be partly or wholly funded by the parking revenues. Sage has her hand up. Do you?
Yeah, Sage, did you want to comment or ask a question right now?
I did because
Sure.
are you done with the police departments?
Yes.
You're done? Okay, so because I'm noticing, and this has been in my mind since I saw this, is that Alan is also requesting to have another part-time parking attendant, basically.
Yes.
From what I can tell, we need to add that in, so it needs to at least be in the list of stuff that's not included yet for.
It is, it's included in under the parking.
It is, you did include that under the parking lot?
Yeah, if you go further down, because we have the parking fund separately now.
Okay.
Yes, if it's
I
on,
wanted to
it's on
check.
page 5.
Page 5.
So
No wonder I didn't see it. Okay. Thanks, Sage.
try to speed this up a little bit. I'm sorry, but I wanted to be thorough here. So
It's great. It's all good.
fire department, let's see, we moved the $7,000 from salaries to per call that was in there for the chief's coverage. And we added 5,000 to that line at his recommendation. So there's $12,000, actually a $5,000 difference. So wildlands wages are budgeted, but they're reimbursed with revenue that shows under fire department revenue. Fuel abatement wages is $30,000 that will be reimbursed through the Firewise program, and $10,000 that the town would contribute. And that was the chief's request. We did that last year, I believe, too. We had to increase the cost of medical supplies because it had not been adequately budgeted in the past. In the librarian has opted out of medical coverage and she'll get an in lieu payment instead. So the town's benefit cost is reduced by a little over $4,000. Sage, did you have a question?
I did on the fire department. I don't know if Rusty can answer this question better than you. What's the reasoning behind adding another $5,000 to the $7,000 that we just started doing this last year?
Because we were trying, remember we talked about this during the middle of last fiscal year about doing companies. And I want to fund that companies where people come in and they stay at the station and hang out, and we pay them 30 to, actually right now it's 20 to 30 bucks a day for them to hang out and be available.
So you're looking for basically more money for like temporary duty officer here and there.
Yeah, well, it's more, they came up with this idea that company officers or companies, and that the companies would come in and they would do stuff around the station and hang out and act as a company. So I want to still fund that because there is now we got 2 companies instead of 3. And we're going to see if we can draw more people into our agency, whatever we need to do. So it's just kind of a a bonus or incentive to try to get more people here.
Thank you. Thanks.
So moving on to planning and zoning, the health insurance costs have been added back in. The zoning administrator last year had opted out and was getting an in lieu payment, but he's opted back in. So the health insurance costs have been added and the in lieu has been reduced or eliminated. We added $2,000 to training and education to cover his attendance at code enforcement training, which is scheduled for after the beginning of the year. And we increased the budget for legal expenses just because we're seeing a lot of zoning code amendments coming up, and just in case we don't want to run short in that area. Let's see, under parks, the community garden right now, we're using the money in the operating grants so that you won't see that in the parks budget. The funding that had been provided by the Yavapai Apache Nation in prior years is what we're using for the community garden. And not yet included is a recommendation from Marty to replace the grass in Upper Park. I don't know, Marty, if you have any idea of what that cost is going to be yet?
No, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna see if we can maybe do a little reseeding and maybe a little aerating and see if we can bring it back. But it is something that if it doesn't come back by next year, we'll have to definitely look into. And I'll get with some landscapers this year and see what we can do to try to bring it back before we spend a bunch of money. But it is something we may have to look at.
And Sage has her hand up.
Sage?
Just a quick comment. It might be helpful if we could actually get the dogs not allowed signs. Last year, I actually pulled all the weeds out from in front of them because I was watching a lot of people actually got into it with a couple of people about letting their dogs urinate in the park that our children run around on their hands and knees in. And I'm sure that their urine is not helping the grass grow. So
Yeah.
that would be helpful.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. That, and I'm not sure the dirt that was up there was the best dirt because it packs really hard, and where people walk, it's compacted and we just can't get any water. And that's why you see the water cascading down the steps. So we'll get some signs up and no dog signs up and try to aerate that ground a little bit and see if we can't get some ground in, but we'll get the signs because that doesn't help at all, the dogs peeing on there. So
Thank you.
Mayor,
Thanks, Sage.
Rusty has his hand up.
Rusty? Rusty?
Yeah, getting my mute button off. Yeah, no, this is backtracking opposed to the park there. As Candace mentioned, the Yavapai Apache Nation money. Is that talking about this year's funding or is that last year's?
Prior years.
Okay, because
Don't worry.
we wanted to.
No, I know.
Okay, so you know.
Good.
It was the year before, so.
Thank you.
All right, properties. We increased the contract services amount to allow for the possibility of a study by ASU regarding the Hotel Jerome. It includes routine building maintenance of 20,000 and routine infrastructure maintenance of 3,000. School Street access wall and steps repair. That's been in the budget for a couple 3 years now, and COVID kind of got in the way, and then we've had these other projects where the engineer's just been absolutely tied up. So hopefully we can get to it this next year. We have 39,000 in the budget again this year to supplement grant funds that are sitting there of 61,000. And I really hope we can get to it. That's 2 grants from Freeport-McMoRan that have come to us for that. I doubt we're going to see any more funding until we get this project done. So anyway, it does not include preliminary design work for the Hotel Jerome beyond whatever we do with ASU, if we do. Repairs to the parade steps, there's 25,000 in the contingency budget right now for that, as if we had in there last year. I don't know what's required or how much that would cost, but there's money there. Repairs to the rock wall below School Street, again, there's 50,000 in contingency budget. That's another project that's been put on hold because the engineer has just been so tied up, but hopefully we get to these things. And repairs to the overflow ditch between Hill Street and Clark Street, which was recommended by Marty. He was going to get a cost on that, and I don't know, Marty, if you have that yet.
No, I don't yet. Rusty had talked like he was gonna look into it, and so I'll get with Rusty and see if he and I can't come up with a cost on doing that just from Hill Street to
Can you kind of
Clark.
explain what it is you would be doing?
From Hill to Clark, we would try
Yeah.
to do some kind of shot creek or concrete swell, just filling that hillside with some concrete so that it doesn't keep seeping into the ground the way it does now, because that's one of the only spots in town where it just goes over and right into the dirt and the rock and the hillside and everything. It's the only spot that's not really protected. And once we piped it, we realized that that was where the water coming down onto the house on School Street was coming from. So we just would have to try to do a more permanent fix with shotcrete or concrete or something to create a swell to where that will go and not be on the ground.
So that sounds like a really important project that we should add as soon as we know how much to add.
Yes.
Okay. Water, let's see, we brought the revenues back up to closer to normal, but I'm still being conservative. We'll keep watching the revenues as they're coming in and see how they're doing. We moved legal fees for Brown and Brown to operating grants because we'll be using the Freeport grant for water planning toward those costs. Infrastructure repairs and maintenance, we just budgeted routine maintenance is 20,000, regulator boxes 5,000. Is that accurate, Marty? So I'm glad you're here, Marty.
Yeah. 5,000 for like one regulator box, probably.
Tell me, whatever we need the budget to cover your regulator work during the coming year. Because I know you did a lot last year.
Yeah, well, oh yeah, just for routine maintenance stuff, that should be enough to cover the seats and the stems and stuff like that. We've been trying to keep that stuff pre-ordered, so, but yeah, that should be enough, I would think.
And Springs, I had put in 5,000. We got a list just recently, like last night or this morning from Tyler, which I sent to you. I prefer not to go into it all online, but I'll probably need to increase that amount to about 19,000. So we've added a line for spring security expenses, tentatively budgeted 5,000, and I'll talk more with Chief Muma about that and see if that is an accurate amount. I just threw that in there to start. What we haven't included in water yet is the purchase of a water truck, 30,000 roughly, and that could be funded, Rusty said, in part with wildlands revenues, which would be helpful. We haven't included water and sewer line replacement on First Avenue. That was a recommendation from Marty, and I'll ask him to tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. And we haven't included live tap valves for Clark Street regulator, another recommendation by Marty, but I don't have a dollar amount for that yet. And I had talked to Kristen, again, we're talking about computer systems now, a system to allow for online utility payments. If council is interested in that, I think it would be helpful. And it may be that if we change our accounting system, there may be an easy way to bring that together. So we'll know more about that but just a heads up. Let's see, Marty, can you talk about First Avenue and the Clark Street regulator?
Yeah. So,
Jane, do you have a question? You're muted.
And then Marty, and Vice Mayor, did you want to say something now or?
I have a list that I wrote up. I figure I'll wait till Candace is done and then go through anything she doesn't to address off my list.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Jane,
Marty?
Mr. Mayor.
I was,
Oh, sorry, Sage.
I didn't unmute myself, but I'll go ahead and let Marty talk. And I had a question
and Sage,
after he's done.
Sage, did you have a question for now?
Yeah, I do actually. I could have swore we bought a water truck last year.
we had it in the budget, but we didn't buy it.
no, we bought a water service truck. We're talking about a water truck, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
What's
to
the
spray
difference?
water with.
Spray water down.
Yeah, so that we can actually not have to wait for road or rain to grade
Yeah,
dirt
I should
roads
have
and
made that clear. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Thanks, Sage. Great question. Okay, Candace,
I was asking Marty to talk about First Avenue, the water and sewer line replacement, and also the live tap valves for the Clark Street regulator.
So the first street, we'll talk about that one. We had that, I think all of you are aware of, and we've talked about it in the past. We had that big problem with our, well, let's call it a manhole up on the corner across from Bobby D's. We did some work on that. I think I also may have put something in there for fixing that line down Hull, correct? Or no? I thought I measured that one too, from manhole to manhole.
I don't see that.
Okay, I'll have to relook at that. But anyways, so we had an issue there, and then it carried on down the hill. And on First Street, we found the old clay line was collapsed in an area. And so we were gonna fix that area real quick. But as we got in there, the 5-foot section turned into an almost a 20-foot section. And the
wow,
rest of the line is just cracked. It's brittle. It's gonna break. It's not that deep. And that one collects everything from the Grand Hotel down Magnolia, all of those roads, all the roads from the hotel over, basically the town yard, fire station, all of that collects into that line and goes down the road. So we would really need to replace that probably sooner than later. And the water line also we've done about 5 repairs in that water line over the last couple of years. It's about 6 inches deep. It's a 3-inch, 4-inch water line that goes down to a little box and goes from a 3 or 4-inch, I think it's 3-inch, goes from a 3-inch down to an 1.25-inch line. And that's what feeds the Queen's neighbors, the Cuban Queen, the apartments right there. And if the Cuban Queen, the Queen's neighbor, and the people that just bought the pool are going to be doing upgrades, we're going to want to upgrade that line at least from where it starts to that box, so that we have a good solid line deep in the ground that we don't have to worry about. And then they can upgrade from there if they need to, but at least we're solid from that point on.
is that
So-
on the Marty, is that on the calendar to do, or is it you're waiting for a decision on this budget?
Waiting on decision for the budget, because it's going to be a little bit of money to do it. I forget what I don't have it in
Yeah,
front of me.
all
I
right.
forget what it was going
Yeah,
to cost, but
You put 13,000 for the water line and water and sewer on First Avenue. Is that what?
No,
no,
something
that's,
no.
James
don't think
got- no,
that's- no, I don't think that's what I put.
But
I'd
it sounds
have
like
to
this
look
needs to
back
be,
at it.
this needs to be a priority fix.
It's one of them, yeah.
Okay, good. And let's get, Jane, did you want to?
I did.
Yes, please.
It's 33,000 for that
Yeah.
sewer line. That seems like a really low estimate to me for
Well,
that thick.
I just went off of what I called a contractor buddy of mine and I said, hey, what do you usually estimate per foot for this? And he says it's, what did he say? I think it was like 80 something dollars a foot.
A foot.
Yeah, I think that's what I rounded it up to. He told me anywhere from $80 to $95 a foot, depending on if there was asphalt or dirt. So it may be more. That's the problem with me trying to figure out if we got to get it engineered, then it costs, like we did on Center, we come up with what we thought it was going to cost to repave that road, and it ended up being 10 times as much, so to speak. But I'm trying to put in, just a quick cost, because really all it is it's a pull and replace with plastic pipe. And so to dig up and replace with just the line, there's not a lot of tie-ins as far as sewer on that stretch. There might be one. So there won't be a lot of that. It's just basically digging up 3 feet, pulling, putting in a new piece. The hardest part is going to be where it ties in underneath the wall at the apartments. And that's going to be a hard one for me to estimate, because it dives off 10 feet right there.
Wow.
And they've got, now you're trying to go under a wall, but they've got bricks set out there for their landing. I mean, so I was just kind of basing it to maybe tie into what goes underneath their little brick deal right there. So I just kind of rounded it up to 100, and it may be low, it may be right
Mhm.
on it. I don't know for sure.
And-
So I think we just jumped down to below the sewer. I was still looking at the water part. But can I just go back to the water for just a minute? The water and sewer line replacement on First Avenue, that was 13,000. Is
Just the water.
Just the
What is-
water, right?
just the water, okay. Is that right, Marty?
Yeah, if
Just the
yeah,
water?
that should be right.
All right. Okay, and then how much for the sewer part of that?
Well, now I'm getting confused. Sorry, I've got pulled up the valve inserts. I don't have what I sent you on the
Oh,
the
okay.
other. Sorry.
I have it in front of me and it was 33,000 plus or minus.
For the sewer, right?
That's also for First Avenue then? Okay. All
Yeah,
right,
that's just for First Avenue. I thought I gave one for Hull, but I will have to look at that again.
all right.
All right.
Trying to pull
Jane,
it
are you
all up.
okay?
I'm slow.
You okay, Jane?
We'll get
Okay.
Rusty right over there.
And then live tap valves for the Clark Street regulator?
So I just got another quote. That's why I haven't put anything really in there for that. I just got it
Okay,
for the valves that I discussed with the guy about some actual better valves or what they think are better valves for doing that. And the quote for the other ones that we got was like $7,000, and these ones are $12,000. But these ones can be rebuilt
right.
later on. The other ones cannot, and these ones are a little better. They guarantee 100% shut off instead of the other ones where they can't guarantee 100% shut off. The other ones had a 1-year warranty, and these ones have a 10-year warranty. So the
Wow.
price is going to be higher, but
It's a
they
better
just came out
investment.
with them, and they seem like a better valve. So
Great.
they're
I-
12,600 a piece.
Wow.
How many do you need?
2 for right now. Well, we may do 1 more later on, but right now 2 will work.
So we're
Right.
talking about basically about 25,000 for the live
Yeah.
valves for the
Yeah.
Clark Street regulator. Okay.
Shays, did
Yeah.
you have your hand up? No, sorry.
Okay, sewer. Again, we're anticipating things to be more normal and we're budgeting conservatively for revenues, but we'll keep an eye on it. We put in 25,000 for engineering fees relative to the sewer treatment plant, and there's additional funds under operating grants and contingencies that I'll explain later. Put in 15,000 for routine infrastructure maintenance, the things that come up day to day. The principal payments on our bonds have always been in our budget, but I checked with our auditor and they really don't need to be in our budget because the budget is a profit and loss statement, basically. And those are balance sheet items. So we can make those principal payments without having to budget for them.
Good.
Little to the show on that one. And I would like to talk about, not at this meeting necessarily, but the possibility of using our cash reserves to pay off our sewer bonds entirely. We owe about 135,000, I believe. Is that right, Melanie? And we have over 100,000 just in the sewer accounts alone that we have to maintain because of the bonds. So it would maybe be to our advantage to stop paying interest. It's not a high interest, but it's still interest. And
Sure.
also eliminate the I'll just say rigmarole that the staff has to go through every single month because of the sewer bonds. We have to make
Sure.
reports, we have to transfer funds. I think, it may be time to just pay those off, and it would be great for our credit as well.
Yeah, that'd be good. That's a great suggestion. And if we can pull it off, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, we have the ability to do that with just what
Great.
we've got in the sewer accounts to do
Cool.
it, almost.
It sounds reasonable to me. I think I will.
Okay.
we'll
And
bring that-
again, that's not a budget item, the principal payments. So
Gotcha.
Jane. did you have
Jane,
a
another question or comment?
I wanted to ask Marty if he thought adding let's see. Hang on a second. Where's my notes? A skid loader to the equipment would help in the water and sewer department.
We had one and we never used it.
Oh,
And
really?
so,
Okay.
yeah, so we got rid of it and got the Gannon, which has come in handy quite a bit more than the skid steer that we had. Renting one when needed is better. But yeah, we had one and we just very rarely ever used it.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
that's it.
okay. HERF. We still have some fund balance in HERF when we got that one-time infusion of cash from them last year or the year before, actually. That we'll use toward balancing the budget, but we're now back into subsidizing it with the general fund. So that's about 68,000 at the moment. We budgeted 25,000 to continue the use of the porta-johns at Middle Park. If you want to do that, that's in there right now. I don't know if you want to consider, people are relying on those when we reduced them. We heard a lot about it, and taking them away at this point is going to be interesting. But if you'd like to consider a permanent restroom there, I've talked to ADOT and I've tried to get their interest renewed in creating public restrooms around there somewhere. I haven't.
What was their response?
They were going to do that years ago and they didn't. And so I brought it up again with them. There may be grant money for that also. It's just something to consider. Porta-johns are not pretty, and
No.
but if you want to get rid of them, we can do that. I just think it's going to create problems.
No, we should have something there, I think. It's just a matter of, because
We never
especially
used
since,
to, but now that they're there.
Yeah.
Jane?
Do we know, I'm just wondering if we could put a bathroom by the little chamber trolley,
Mhm.
if there's a way to hook into the sewer there, if that could replace the porta-johns. If
Mark-
we had, I don't know, 1 or 2 stalls there, if that would work and not be an issue with building a new building somewhere in that parking area.
Marty, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, someone was talking to me.
Oh.
So I would imagine we could do a bathroom there. We would probably have to install a pump because the only sewer line close to that is that one on, hold on, I got to decline a call. Is that one on First that we're looking at repairing? That's the closest sewer line
Mm.
to that area. And I mean, it could be done. It would just have to have a pump to it.
Jane?
Could we do a little research into some innovative waterless, like an Incinelette type toilet? Is that a possibility?
You mean a composting? Is that what you mean?
Well, it's not really composting. It fries everything. It bakes everything. So it's just it's ash. I mean, I don't know about hand washing though. That's also an issue, but I don't know. I just thought if we could add something there, it would eliminate the objection from SHPO or ADOT or whoever from building something else.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's for further discussion, I guess.
Yeah.
And it might be a good thing for the contingency budget. Since we really aren't sure at this point what we want to do in that regard. But right now we do have 25,000 in the sewer budget, in the HERF budget for the porta-johns. So it's either going to be that or something else, I imagine. So we budgeted 20,000 in HERF for routine infrastructure maintenance and street patching, 20,000 in total. And what we haven't yet included in HERF is repairs to Gulch Road and North Drive. That was requested by, I want to say Nancy Wiesel. It was a resident that asked for that, Gulch Road and North Drive repairs. Don't know the cost of that at this point, so that's not included. The Hampshire Avenue sidewalk repair, which has, again, has been hanging out on the side of the budget for a while. That needs ADOT involvement and our engineers' involvement, and that's kind of stalled. So, but there's 50,000 again in contingency right now for that. And the purchase of a flatbed truck. That isn't in there yet. Marty had brought that up. It would be, we're just guessing, 50,000, and that would be split between several budgets, the water, sewer, parks, properties, trash, and HERF budgets. Marty, can you talk a little bit about that need?
Well, yeah, the flatbed that we've had has been taking crap for quite a while. And we've talked about replacing it. It's not a truck that gets used as much since we've gotten the water truck, but when we haul the trailer with the water truck, that means the water service truck is out of town in case we have an emergency. So I'd like to be able to find a nice Ford that can haul that recycle trailer. That's the most it gets used for. Plus Chief uses it for fuel abatement and stuff like that. So if we could find a truck that can haul that trailer and not use the water truck and keep the miles down on that, that would be pretty good.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, parking. We anticipated 150,000 in kiosk revenues. It's probably going to be more. So I did an allowance for another 70,000 in that fund. We provided for transfers of 40,000 each to the water and sewer budgets. Last year we did 30. And it includes an allowance of 20,000 for additional capital purchases and an allowance of 60,000 for additional transfers to water, sewer, and public safety. What it hasn't included yet is the chief's recommendation, Chief Mumas, for an ATV for use by the parking people, and a second parking enforcement officer part-time, which would, each of those would be about 15,000, and they're not in there yet, but at council's direction, I can add them. Alan, Chief, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, just real quick. Currently, we're using the town's 4-passenger ATV to enforce parking. I mean, anybody that's been up there on the weekend when we have a parking enforcement officer there can see how much work it is. I think we get better compliance with somebody visually out there. It's a little friendlier than us just going around on the other days and giving them tickets. I mean, we have to ensure compliance and therefore we enforce the parking. But my proposal was to add another part-time person, not so we don't have a full-time person, so we're not paying benefits and things, so that they can, on the off days that our regular person isn't there, we can have that person out on the streets. And then also they can take care of the administration. As it stands, I put most of that work on Janice and myself. I do all the maintenance and run the reports. Janice takes care of all these parking tickets, the entering them in, recording the fines, the fees. I also met with the judge, and the judge is going to take over all parking that is not paid for. So rather than go to a collection agency where we only collect part of the money, we're going to send it over after the 10 days. If it's not paid to the court will then collect. And so that keeps the revenue inside the town. So again, both those parts were, remember, the parking is new. I think having a person on easily generates the extra $100 a day, just for the fact that they run around and they talk to the people and they get them to pay and they help them out. It makes for a gentler town rather than issuing the parking tickets. Just so you know, parking tickets over the last year that we've actually, in the parking bureau, this is not what goes to the court, has been over $20,000.
Wow.
So that's just in parking tickets.
Great.
Anything to do with revenue collected on site, because we do collect parking money on site as well when people can't manage the machine. We let them pay in the office. And so I just want to make the parking end a little more efficient. I think having an additional person there part-time would help out. And we need the ATV to also run water system security runs. So we're not taking up on the big 4 passenger job. So that's why I put it in there.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Sage, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I would really like to see both of these added into the budget.
Absolutely. I agree,
I
100%.
I hear general agreement there and nodding.
Yeah.
I'm going to just put those in for next time.
Yep, we will.
Okay, the operating capital grants, you see the list. That's probably not complete yet. We're still fleshing that out, but it's always a wash. And I always include every possible grant and then some miscellaneous grants so that if we get them, we can spend them. And obviously, if we don't get them, we don't spend any money. So, and again, I've talked about the capital fund. Contingencies. What's in contingency right now is the American Rescue Act funding that has to be used for infrastructure or broadband is 54,000 we would be getting this year. We're still waiting for guidance on that. Nobody's quite totally clear on how that's going to work or what we have to do to get it, but it's allocated, I believe, right now over the course of the next 2 years, and Jerome's share would be 54,000 a year. Again, in contingencies, there's repairs to the parade steps, which I put in at 25,000, the wall below Stool Street, 50,000, Hampshire Avenue sidewalk, 50,000, flatbed 50, and you know, if council wishes, any of these can be moved to the regular budget. Excess wildlands fees for whatever, up to 100,000, excess sales tax up to 80, a new golf cart or ATV for administration. And Rosa texted me in the meantime to inform me that Kristen isn't using the golf cart, and I don't blame her. So it would be helpful to have. It's obviously not, but she's using her own car, and that's not great either. So it would really be helpful for administration to have a golf cart or something like that. Additional library donations, the use of funds from the, I put this in every year just in case, because you never know. The sale or lease of real property at the Clarkdale Cemetery, I put in $1 million because if we did that, we could then spend it. And if we don't, it just sits there in the contingency budget. And phase 2 of the wastewater engineering design, if we need it, is I put in $100,000 that would be funded according to Pace Engineering by Design Bridge Loan. So there would be a loan and payments on that. Major projects not included yet. I just put in everything we could think of, and this was the Center Avenue. We had applied, as you know, for the competitive CDBG funding for Center Avenue, but we didn't get that. I believe the construction, we've done the engineering on it already, so that's done. The construction cost that remains, I believe, was in the area of 400 to 450,000. That may be another thing we'd have to reapply for funding for. School Street, Verde Street, Holly Street, First Avenue, Fifth Avenue, and the refurbishment of second water tank on Cleopatra Hill. These are all things that Marty and Rusty came up with as our long-term wish list for, and Jane?
I just had a question about the water tanks on Cleopatra Hill. I know one of the previous engineers had said that there was some erosion that needed to be dealt with up there. And I just wanted an update on that from Marty, if he's been up there lately. Behind the tanks.
I mean, I haven't been up there recently, but I didn't see anything. There was, when they did the work on that first tank, there was a bunch of dirt up underneath that tank and kind of at the base of the tank. And this was back when it was Dwayne, Travis, Roy, Tyler, and I, and we got under there and hand dug all of that out on both tanks, I believe. But I don't know of any other erosion that was on those. I wonder if that's what maybe they were talking about, how it just kind of got underneath that tank. But that was all hand dug out down to the base, the concrete base that the tanks are held up by.
Okay, yeah, I don't know whether we've had any major downpours that would cause more. It's an engineer that is no longer here, but he was saying that that was something that needed to be dealt with at some point because the tanks were in danger because of water coming down behind. So yeah, I don't know. And I suggested that somebody go up there when it is raining hard and see what's going on up there. So,
Yeah, or right
'cause
afterwards.
yeah, if we have erosion behind the tanks, might want to look at that before anything else is done.
Could we use the drone to go and look at that?
Oh,
Well,
we could hike up
you
there. It's
could-
not that, it's not
Right.
that hard.
and you could drive
I
part
know
of
the
the way,
road
can't
can't
you?
help but drive.
Yeah. Yeah, you could probably drive the gator up there or maybe even the
Mhm.
side by side, but it's not much of a hike to get up there. So I'll walk up there maybe tomorrow and see if that's something that, but I just wonder if that's what they were talking about with the dirt that had gotten underneath those
Yeah, I'm
tanks
not-
and rusting the bottom out or something like that.
So that
Mary.
pretty much covers my exhaustively long memo to you. We'll still tweak the day-to-day stuff as we continue to look at the expenses that are coming in and what might be needed between now and the end of the year also. And so the timeline that I gave you, if possible, we'd love to adopt a tentative budget at our June meeting instead of our July meeting. Where that's about a month ahead of where we usually are, but it would be great to have the budget in place by the beginning of the fiscal year for a change. And so I gave you a tentative budget meeting schedule there. The next one would be Tuesday, May 4th, and May 10th, May 18th, and June 2nd. And hopefully we can get it all done in those 5 meetings.
Yes, I think we can.
And then
Let's see
again,
what-
once you have the tentative budget, you can still reduce it. You can't add to it, but you can reduce it at that point between then and the adoption. So
And I wanted to get to Mandy's thing and the renovation we wanted to do for the self-help clinic in Town Hall. We had some money set aside for that. Is that still set aside?
yes, hold on. I believe,
50,000 in there.
let's see,
Because I may have a donor to help with some of that.
we put 1,000 in for Friends of Jerome startup costs. That's not what you're talking about.
No, talking about the self-help
be under
clinic on the
property,
second floor of the Town Hall.
There was 50,000 in the budget for it.
50?
Thank you.
Thanks, Sage. I love it. See? Okay,
Dr.
good.
Jack, if I may?
and- What's that?
If I may.
Yes, you may, Mandy. It was just coming right to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my notes are in order of Candace's memo.
Okay.
And as I go through them, there's several things that were addressed, which is great. I would like to see COLA raises at least minimally. I've pushed for that every year and I'm going to continue to push for that. I think our staff deserves it. I think they work really hard. If there's a particular position that a department head believes should, that we're not paying properly, then that could be a separate discussion. But I think that across the board, all of our staff deserve a cost of living raise. The league convention, for sure. That was one of the best things I have ever done. I would encourage everyone to consider coming, even if it's just for a day. You don't have to go to the whole thing. You can come down just for a day. This year it is in Phoenix, so it's a little more convenient. Candace, I'd also like to consider attending at least one, if not both, of the National League of Cities conventions
Okay, I'll
this
look-
year,
Okay.
especially with everything that's been going on federally and the fact that we do a lot with federal grant dollars, especially the congressional convention in DC, I think would be really amazingly important. Both Senator Sinema's office and Senator Kelly's office have essentially issued not written, but formal verbal invites for a member from each municipality to attend. We were given those at the NACOG meeting, the regional council meeting. Flat tax, that thing is just ugly for us, and it's bipartisan and it looks like it might happen. And everybody, electeds, residents, staff, anybody and everybody, please, please, please send something to the state legislature saying how you feel about that particular bill before it passes, because it's not going to be great for us. And we're not the only small town struggling with that situation.
Mandy, if I may just interject something there, I
Yeah.
think The last correspondence I had from the league about that indicated that they're kind of switching gears now. They're not arguing so much against the flat tax itself, but they're arguing for it not to come from local governments. And
Correct.
so, okay.
Yeah, they're kind of basically robbing Peter to pay Paul is really what that bill is. And if you haven't read it, there's an excellent synopsis available from the league. It will affect every single department and every single small municipality. I'm all for looking at the new accounting software options. I know that's an upfront cost, but that's something that we could also possibly reach out to the manufacturer and see if maybe they would be willing to assist with that as a partial donation to the town. Assistance for the court. I'm glad to see this on here. I'd had some casual conversations with Rhonda about this. Court clerks have to have certain certifications and she is it. So if she cannot come for some reason, if she wants to go see her grandkids, or if she's ill, or if she has to take care of her family, we don't have anybody else to fill in. And so to get a second person would be great, but I also would like to look at the possibility of similar to how we do, maybe a mutual aid kind of thing where we could, if we know, if it's planned and we know she's going to be gone, or like we do with the prosecutor, we have someone who's identified as the person that comes in and covers that time. It's my understanding that the town of Clarkdale has a full-time and 2 part-time court clerks. Police, the patrol car. I'd like to have more information about that. I would like to see the possibility of a stipend when there's an acting chief, because they're taking on more responsibility than their current pay. I want to make sure that we are managing our partnerships for crisis services via Spectrum's mobile crisis team, and that we have that in place. And then also we had discussed the possibility of adding a new position to the police department. And so what would that look like in the budget from a salary perspective? Properties. The co-op would like their bathroom ventilation updated in a big fat way. I hear from somebody at least 2 or 3 times a week. The school street access, if we get that done, then maybe we can continue to apply for Freeport McMoran grants and maybe use that towards the parade steps, just kind of work our way through that process. We need to start considering getting a RFP, RFQ for a general contractor and an architect for the Hotel Jerome project. It's really hard to move forward when you don't have any idea what we're looking at design-wise, because really the big next step is, once we finish the steps that are already kind of, in progress and in place, ready to go, the big next one is life safety. And without some concept of what's happening on the inside, drawing a life safety plan is not the easiest thing in the world. Sorry, I'm going through my list and not going through anything that's already been gone through. Oh, HERF. There are going to be some additional funds, probably via NACOG, some competitive, some not. They're still figuring that out. As far as what's going to happen with some of the money, but it was kind of said by multiple people multiple times at the meeting on Wednesday, lots of opportunities for funding are coming. So there may be some additional money there. There are 2 transportation grants that are going to exist. One is open for proposal right now, and the other one opens, I believe, July 1st, if my notes are correct. And those are going to be some chunky money that we have never seen before in the transportation and HERF end of the world. Permanent bathrooms. We've talked about that before on council, and it's not this council. It's probably, I want to say 8, 10, 12, maybe even longer years ago. And I'm not sure why that didn't actually move forward. I remember there was something that was preventing it from happening with permanent bathrooms in that Middle Park area. And so I'm curious if we can, I believe Jay might have been mayor at the time. So if we can find out that information, that would be great. I drove North Drive the other day and it's a scary experience. Just if you don't believe me, like I walk it all the time. I didn't realize how bad it was in a car. Take a little drive down there. It's pretty rough. Oh, ATVs. To have one for parking and also for running the water lines, and then to have another one for town hall administrative use makes sense. I wonder if maybe we could get a package deal on buying two. And major projects. Oh, there's a couple of changes to CDBG stuff that we should be aware of. They're updating their method of distribution. And instead of multiple projects from a municipality, when you apply for CDBG funding, whether that's guaranteed or competitive, it will be applicable for only one project. So it has to be done in a slightly different way. And I would like to see on the major projects list that Center Avenue, man, that's our, I think of that as 89A-B. It is our only way to bypass the business district should we need to, and to assist with emergency evacuations in that kind of a need. I know some of these other roads, and like I said, I drove north, it's scary in a car, are really bad, but I think we need to look at where our safety issue, what roads are providing us safety when we think about major projects. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion for Candace? And I didn't know whether there were people that wanted to speak that are attending this meeting that are non-council members, whether they're able to or not.
I would like to hear from Chief Muma when he's off the phone about the patrol car.
Okay.
There was something
Do I
else.
see a hand up there by Sage? I do. All right. God, I just want to double check. Okay, let's hear from Sage and then we'll get Chief Moma. And then we'll see, I don't know how the public that works. Yes,
Okay,
please, Sage.
I'm gonna kind of go like Mandy did. I too would like to see the audio-visual system, if we can figure out a price on that and get some numbers so that we can see if we can afford to put it in our budget. I agree with the golf cart. I would not want to even ride in that golf cart, and I'm pretty sure Kristen's probably never driven that thing. It's been down since before Peggy left. The accounting software. I would really like to see us get into government accounting software.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that was, it
We're
may be
a
a costly
government-
upfront, but I
in a
agree with you.
government Software program. It's going to
Yeah.
be way more secure,
Yep.
first off, and it's going to give us more of what we need for
Yeah.
line item things. So
Yep, and I think for the long term, I agree with you. I think that's a good investment.
and then the patrol car, I know that he's talking about the 2008. I believe that's the one that Rusty San Felice drives. And I think that's kind of the last one other than the Ford that got rebuilt, which I used to call Franken Ford. Fords put together. But that would be really nice if we could afford to put that in our budget.
Yeah.
The other things that I'm gonna kind of scroll down, because of course the grass in the upper park, I think we could probably afford that. As big as the park is, I don't imagine it would cost more than maybe 10, 12 grand to do that. The overflow ditch between Hill Street and Clark Street. We need to address that. We need to get a quote on that and get some numbers for that so that we can get it in our budget. That is, I think, a real priority. And then the water line replacements for First Ave and the sewer line replacement for First Ave. So 13,000 and 33,000. I would like those in our budget as well, and not in a contingency. I would like it so that we can get that fixed. They spent a lot of time in that area this year down in the ditch trying to figure out what's wrong with that. And then public restrooms. I am extremely opposed to spending $25,000 more on those ugly porta potties. I think that it would be more financially responsible of this town to just build new public restrooms.
Yeah.
So I would really like to see that. And, you know, if we can keep it under 25,000 and have town crew do it, then we don't have to put it out for bid. So I have a hard time spending that kind of money on toilets.
A lot of crap.
Ugly toilets too,
Yeah.
man.
No, I think I'm with you. I'd rather build something and, you know, even if it's one of these non-flush, I know the Chevron station, you know, there are a bunch of, and even the one downstairs by Johnny Rocks, the urinal in the men's room is waterless. So,
Nice.
so I think, yeah, I agree. I think building something is the right way to go.
Uh-huh.
And I see the hands up. I'll get to both of you in a moment.
I'm not quite done, I don't.
That's all right. Take your time.
It might be. Yeah, and we already talked about doing the ATV and the
Yep.
second parking officer. So, yep, that's kind of where I'm at with everything.
Good. All good points.
Mayor, you've got Jane with her hand up and Alex with her hand up. And then I just want to make a comment that building the new restrooms, I like that idea. We'll have to consider the maintenance of those and who's going to be doing that.
Yeah. Yes. You know, and maybe we could work with one of the businesses if we have it near to one of the businesses that they help out somehow. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. But yes, but I like that idea a lot better than the porta potty things. And we'll find a way to do it. But I think it's in the long term, that'll be good. And I also agree that I like the idea of the investment in that finance, the government finance thing you talked about. I think in the long term, that we'll be happy that we made that investment. I agree. Okay, let me get to Jane first, then to Alex, please.
About the public restrooms, I was on the council with Jay when all that happened, and I have talked about this before with SHPO and ADOT. We had money lined up to put restrooms in the middle park. And then SHPO did not like our idea of a small building at the back of the parking lot, basically where the porta potties are now. They wanted us to build a building that was along the frontage of Hall Avenue, like where the High House is, to be more in keeping with the historic character rather than having some little, well, what we had planned was to combine the little chamber office and restrooms at the back of that parking area, not taking up any parking, but being a small building. And they put the kibosh on that, basically. We had money lined up. ADOT was going to help us build it. And then it just all fell apart. And I don't really know whether SHPO would go along with us with building a small restroom building in the back of that or not.
Times
It's
have
kind of
changed. Maybe they
disturbing
would.
that we, what's that?
Yeah, times have changed. There are different people in there too. So
Maybe,
maybe
I mean,
it's
I
worth
went
the
to
ask.
several
Yeah.
ADOT meetings
Yeah.
towards the end there, and I know I've expressed this before, what they said. Oh, the people that are visiting can just use the restrooms and the businesses, which I think is wrong. I mean, I
Wrong.
look at it,
Sure.
and they were looking at it as a rest area on State Highway as well, because a lot of people just stop here to use the restrooms. So
We
I
can always
would
put one
like
at the
to
300
pursue-
level. Can we put one up there too, maybe? With the
where?
parking, by the parking lot on the 300 level?
Well, it seems to me that we need something in that middle where the
Yeah, no, I
parks are.
agree. Yeah, yep.
And I would like to pursue at least like a handicap and regular bathroom, like two, if we could just do a small
Sure.
building there.
Yep, I agree
So,
with you.
I
Yep.
don't know how we're gonna do that in this shorter time period though, but maybe put money towards something in the budget.
Yep, no,
And I can reach out to SHPO and see what their current feeling about all that is.
Because building a whole big building along the street is, would take up parking as well. And building something tiny in the back of that parking area would be way better in my mind.
Great. Okay, but I think we're all on board, think that a restroom's a good idea. We'll just have to figure it out. And I think, times have changed. Maybe we'll see how they feel, but I agree. I think it's a very good idea. So let's, Alex, I think Alex, you're next, please.
I agree with everything Mandy, Jane, and Sage have said of adding in here. I do want to point out that our water department, not yet included, if we could see what the budget implications are for everything that they're asking. Also our sewer department, as far as like our infrastructure needs. I think these are something that our next budget, we should at least look at the implications and see what we can cut, because these are things that we need. I also would really like to see the water system, Tyler's list in its entirety added, because we need that as well. Again, infrastructure.
Yeah.
And again, what Mandy had said, at least look at COLA raises for everyone, and we can tweak it to go up, not really down. Our people are very important to us. We can't pay what a lot of the bigger municipalities can pay, but we can at least keep showing them that we appreciate them enough to give them a quality of life
Opportunity.
raise, the COLA raise. So again, the infrastructure things in our water and sewer, I would like to see it in our budget and we can tweak it. Mandy had a wonderful list. We also need to make sure that the couple people that asked for additional resources like our courts and our police, that we at least look at it in our next budget and see if we can afford it. Everyone that needs help deserves the help if we can afford it. And again, the government system, instead of the CIMA, what was it called again, Candace? And how do you spell it, please?
It's CASEL, and I believe it's CASELLE.
I think that would be worth us spending an initial chunk
Great.
of money on.
Cool.
So thank you.
Great, thanks, Alex. All right, well, Candace, you're here, we're all in agreement on
I
that
do.
particular one.
I've
Which is-
made notes, and what I can do for the next budget meeting is add everything in that you've expressed interest in, and we'll see where we are at
Good.
that point.
And
Chief Luma is still on the phone, unfortunately. I would like for him to be able to talk about that patrol car.
Okay, he's still on the phone. Do you have your hand up again, Jane, or is that still up from before?
I do. Perhaps if he's not off the phone, he could send us a memo with more information about the patrol car before the next budget meeting.
All right. Do you want me to put it in or leave it off until you discuss it further?
Put it in for the time being,
Okay, all right. All right.
and tell him we're requesting that he get a mini car. Oh.
Russ,
Candace, in that
No more
memo
than
from
one
the
prisoner.
in that memo from the chief, I'd like to see any additional staffing or pay for staff that he'd like to see.
Okay, and if I emailed you all this morning a proposal, or it was information provided by Rusty Blair and Chief Muma about staffing and pay for, well, Rusty, you've got your hand up. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, a lot of our other departments have pay scales for different employees and their abilities. And I would like our pay scale to reflect if you're just a firefighter, whatever, you get this much. And then if you're a lieutenant, you get this much, captain this much. If you get engine boss more, and it also reflects into the combination of fire and police. We're trying to think outside the box here, trying to get more people to be a part of both, so also in there, a stipend for if you live in town, because those are important factors for us. If you live in town, you're going to be a lot more effective for us as opposed to when you live in Cottonwood or somewhere else. So I sent you a little scale there that we can work off of, and see where we can go from there.
Thank you.
And that would be for the paid positions you already have. Is that right, Rusty?
Yeah, that's a starting point, but it's also for in the future, however we melt the fire and PD together if we can, because to sustain this fire department, we got to do something different. We got to think outside the box here. So,
Good.
also, I wanted to discuss the Yavapai Apache Nation funds and make sure that we slate it for the bathrooms for PD and a kitchen up here at the station, if that's feasible.
How does council feel about that? We had talked about that. We applied for it for that reason, but again, we have some flexibility there. We can use them for what we want, but I did say we would bring it back to council to make that final determination. Sage?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I see Alex has her hand up, so does Jane.
I think it's a good use.
Man, okay. Jane, Alex?
I agree. It's also a good use. And the reason I put my hand up is Rusty had sent out those pay scales via email this morning. And I think Candace had suggested that we wait until our next budget talk so we can kind of digest those numbers. It was a little too much, too late to actually do much digesting. So I agree that we should look at that a little bit more in depth at our next budget meeting. So we have a little bit more time to look at it.
Cool.
And as far as the proposal for what Rusty wants to use for the CDBG, I think we've already looked at that. I just don't really remember anything of PD bathrooms. Are those going to go in the actual PD and just be expanded, renovated? What's the deal with those, Candace? Do you know?
Well, we're not talking about the CDBG. We're talking about the Yavapai Apache Nation funding.
Okay.
And he wanted to turn the firehouse into a more of a emergency evacuation center, I believe, by improving the kitchen there. Is that right, Rusty?
Yeah, and also PD is in dire need of a real bathroom. So the major portion of the funding would go towards the PD bathroom.
Oh, okay.
And then we utilize what we needed to put in some cabinets and the stove and do the work up here ourselves to get a little island, and there we will be able to cook for people in the event we had to house them in a situation where we had a cold spell or something and we lost power or, all kinds of reasons for that. So
Thanks, Rusty.
And I see Chief is off the phone now. Maybe he could tell us more about the patrol car.
Yes, I'm sorry. That was actually staff from Senator Rogers' office, and they just talked to me about a couple of things. One is a pretty neat additional opportunity that might provide some additional revenue to the town. So, being nice to people pays off. And
Yes, I think she really appreciated the visit, except for the out-of-town visitor.
Yeah. So sorry about being on the phone. I was trying to listen on both of them, but I didn't want to miss that phone call because
Yes.
it carried the potential of funding with it. So on the patrol car, what I wanted to do when we initiated the paid parking, one of the things I said was that the parking tickets alone should be able to replace a patrol car every 2 years. And at this current rate, it can, okay? I mean, this year alone, we'll bring in close, it'll be approximately $20,000 just on parking tickets. That's not parking revenue, that's just on parking tickets. So every 2 years, that easily funds a new patrol car. And that's kind of the goal that I set aside for that. That keeps our motor vehicle fleet. As a matter of fact, one of the conversations I just had on the phone was about fleet maintenance in the state and things like that. And police departments and their fleets. So that's where I foresee the patrol car coming. We'll get rid of a patrol car. Okay, so it's not like we want to increase the fleet by another one and add 6 cars. That's not my goal. We'll get rid of the oldest one, sell it off, and this one would replace one of the 2008 Explorers. We got the 2006 Charger out of the fleet. We're not using that anymore. We're selling that this year, and we would sell a 2008 Explorer and get it out of the fleet next year to replace it with a new car. So that's my proposal for the police car.
Sounds good.
Bathrooms, just real quick. we had put money in several years back and we weren't able to use it. The bathroom there is from 1929. It's literally never been modified. Anybody that's been in there and used that bathroom can tell you that. There's a not a tarantula friend, a centipede friend that likes to live in the wall there. That likes to come out and visit people at night when it's on the toilet. So it's a kind of creepy bathroom, and what we'd like to do is put a shower in there, new toilet, new sink. I mean, the sink, you can't even get hot water out of it. So we don't have hot water. It's just a bad deal. And before I leave, it'd be nice to have a new bathroom in the facility. We can do the demo. We can do a lot of the work. We can sub out some of the plumbing and the tile and stuff like that. But I think we can get that job done, have a decent bathroom, which will add to the building itself, and the people that use it aren't creeped out by it. So,
Sounds good, Chief.
And we
Thank
do
you.
have grant funding that was awarded for that purpose, so,
right.
Thank you. Do we hear from the public on this meeting, Candace, or,
you can if you choose to. Sure.
well, is there anyone that had requested to speak?
I don't see any hands up, but
No hands up?
no.
Any other comments or questions or anything from council members, staff?
Well, I have a pretty good idea of what you want to see included, which is a lot of what wasn't included. And I will put those things in, and we'll revisit this with those items in there at the May 4th meeting. Regarding the COLA, any idea of what percentage you want me to put in there to start out?
Do we know what the national percentage is going to
I'm
be?
sorry, I didn't look that up, but I could look that up and use that.
Yeah, let's start there.
Okay.
Agreed.
Sounds good. Good start. Thank you all very, very much. Very productive meeting. And look forward to the next one, and look forward to seeing you all in person. Can I
Mr.
get a
Mayor,
motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Hi.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We are adjourned at 2:42 PM. Thank you
Thank
Thank
very
you
much.
all.
Thanks so much, Candace. Thank you,
Thank you,
staff. Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.